let's move on this. Everyone on social media and news right now represents this as a private diary of Anthony Fauci, as if he penned it all himself. And as I said, it's 1,200 pages covering the period of about maybe 18 months to 24 months, which is very hard to imagine that one person could generate this much of a diary while at the same time doing wall-to-wall coverage, interviews, TV appearances, photo shoots, president briefings, all sorts of high-profile meetings, at the same time running a multi-billion-dollar organization with thousands of employees. So of course, that's not his personal diary. And I tried to do some searches and tried to figure out like how Paul obtained it. How was it subpoenaed? Was it a separate subpoena for the specific diary? Well, turns out, no, there's no evidence that this was a separately subpoenaed document. According to internet searches, it says the diary appeared somehow among other documentation. And what it appears to be, it's not a private diary of Anthony Fauci. It's a standard type of a journal kept largely by his staff, by agency staff, which is probably generated semi-automatically from his calendar, and then some press clippings, and then notes that staffers took of where he was on what days and doing what. Some information on it may have been contributed by himself, but it's hard to tell. There is no evidence that it's written by him other than the first person writing, but again, it's not evidence. So there's no trace. And the reason it appears that it was subpoenaed as part of agency-produced documents, not by Fauci, because if it was really his private diary, the process would have been much more complex of trying to compel him to produce it legally. They only can subpoena documents that have relationship to official agency business. And that's how it appears to be part of this investigation. So that's
officially and legally, it doesn't look anything like a private diary except for the use of the first person. We can also look at the language and what is actually included in it, and we can very easily see that nobody would write a private diary like that. It bears no resemblance to a private diary. It actually has, I checked, and there's 78 cases in which it says, see above, in parentheses, like, the CDC announced that there's an increase in cases, see above, because in a previous, as in a document where you're like, above, there's a chart and you can look above. Who is the target audience for this? When you're writing a private diary, right? You're either writing it for yourself, for your thoughts, or to record your life because you think that it's going to be important. I mean, let's say Fauci really thinks it's important and, somebody's going to write his biography and they're going to want his diaries. He's not going to write see above unless he's writing to his future biographers. And if it's directed at the public, then why does he think that his private diary is going to be seen by the public? There are also like bold-faced and red titles and all kinds of things that make it look like a document that the public is supposed to read so that they can quickly scan it and see what's important, as opposed to a person who's just writing their diary. They're not going to go through and decide, I need to boldface this sentence and I need to have a red headline here because this is super important. And then he includes things like the monkeypox prevalence or whatever in his private diary. Again, like everything about this doesn't actually add up to being a private diary. So what Sasha said is the official legal side of things. It can't be, it's not a private diary, like just officially in terms of how they got it and what type of a document it is, and what kind of subpoena you need to get it. And then if you look at the content, you can see that it bears no resemblance to any kind of private writings by anybody. And so, Sasha, it could have been written all along, like they could have been or it could have been written post events. It could have been written post events very easily.
Yeah. And this is just, as I said, it's an official agency maintained set of journals, records of where he was and what he did. Probably, and I tried to look into this, and they said in the internet searches again are saying that yes, so high profile government officials maintain, some maintain this kind of record, because for any future investigations, issues, for liability reasons, they can have a more detailed records of what happening was the day and how to, who they were meeting with and so forth. So also, as far as is it fabricated? No, it's not. It's not entirely fabricated. It's factually more or less correct as far as dates where he was, especially with regard to media appearances and official meetings that he had on his calendar. I think it's correct, more or less.
Right,
Now,
because it includes facts, sure.
It includes facts.
But the question is, what does it not include?
Exactly.
And what does it want us to ignore? So let's get to that, Sasha.
Yeah, let's get to that. So the biggest lies in this document are by omission, but there are some actually manufactured information at the very important juncture. So the first thing, and I'm going to share, the first thing I went to look for when I got this document is, of course, our favorite date, which is February 4th, 2020.
Yep.
And right here it is. So I was looking for anything in this diary around February 4th, 2020. The reason that date is so important, because we know that on that date, so that's the date to which the PrEP Act declaration for COVID emergency, which was issued in March 2020, was backdated. And the reason it was backdated to that date, because that was a major announcements, both internal and external, from the US government about Operation COVID. So I've published a leak of internal AstraZeneca discussion where the CEO of AstraZeneca and Vice President of monoclonal antibodies are discussing this date and saying that they received a phone call from DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency of the Department of Defense, telling them that COVID is a national security issue and that they need to, or has been classified as national security threat, and they need to switch to COVID products. So because PrEP Act covers pharmaceutical companies for any liability with respect to COVID countermeasures that they're manufacturing. So no matter how many people they kill and injure with their products, they're completely absolved from liability. For that reason, it was very important for US government to cover pharma companies from the moment that they were notified by the government that they must start working on these products. So February 4th was that date. And then also you Debbie, have an email, which we can also show, that went internally in the...
But let's first, yes, I'll show it, but let's first show what the diary. So we know that this is an extremely important date.
Extremely important date. So in the diary, there's nothing of what I said. No mention of communications, but look at how interesting this is. So we have, the diary goes like this. So we have here the date, February 4th, 2020. So it goes sequential day by day. And here, so he's writing, we have a meeting with all these important people, including Francis Collins, Anthony Fauci, Jeremy Farrar, Ron Fouchier from the Netherlands, very important.
This call was one of those origins calls that everybody talks about all the time.
Yeah,
this
so
was
on
the
February
call
1st,
where some people expressed that it was maybe not natural, and others said it was natural. This is a very, very key call when you're talking about the so-called cover-up of the lab leak. This is the cover-up of the lab leak.
So here they're working furiously on cover-up of the lab leak. That's great. February 4th, February 2nd, 2020. We have some other phone calls, very important. We have cases, we have deaths. Then all of a sudden, we have February 3 is marked as 2019.
Oops.
Oops. Okay, so we have the first oops, not very factual. So there's something going on February 3rd. Then February 4th doesn't exist. We have January 4th of 2020.
So February 3rd, the year is wrong.
The year.
February 4th, the month is wrong.
The month is wrong. Yeah.
Right? No other place. I don't think any other place in this diary has that kind of mistake.
No, these are the only 3 dates or 4 dates that they have messed up right around February 4th, and the February 4th doesn't exist at all. And and on presumably what's supposed to be February 4th here is marked as January 4th. We have all sorts of things. Well, we have 2,000 cases, 27 deaths, interest in revealing that New England Journal of Medicine paper claiming Chinese German transmission. We talk about Hong Kong, mortality, Chinese officials criticizing USA, Lindsay Baden from, again, New England Journal of Medicine. So he's talking about New England Journal of Medicine, China, Hong Kong, everything but anything that's going on February 4th,
But
really.
look at the last sentence. I think it's hilarious. The last sentence says, State of the Union address tonight and vote on conviction after impeachment tomorrow, weird, exclamation point. Yeah, that sounds like something that Fauci would write in his diary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Weird.
of course, all the media appearances, bolded here, very important stuff that he did is go on all these TV shows and interviews. Then we have February 5th, and oh, look at that, 2000.
Another mistake.
Another mistake. He says Spenty the day, very interesting. On the Hill as part of President's Coronavirus Task Force, led by Alex Azar. And again, so talking about various things, but not what was happening. Then he has a whole paragraph about exciting briefings with Nancy Pelosi, how she hugged him and how she was so praising him and in love with him. Look, he spends the whole paragraph on this. And then we have tragic news. In passing, he mentions that his nephew was found suddenly dead. Likely sudden heart attack. So Nancy Pelosi deserves a whole paragraph of this so-called private diary. While a true personal tragedy, by the way, this is the son of his sister. And he suddenly died on February 4th, 2020. He was 51 years old and was a completely unexpected sudden death. We can't even attribute it to mRNA vaccines. They didn't exist at the time. So this is a very interesting occurrence, very interesting event, a personal tragedy, which deserves only a notice in passing, while Nancy Pelosi deserves an entire paragraph.
Now, of course, people will say that's because he's such a narcissist, and that's exactly what this diary is intended to
show. Yes.
So, it's pretty funny, especially considering that time period, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th of February, so the day before the 4th and the day after the 4th are completely misrepresented.
Right.
And now, let's see, Sasha, I don't know if,
and on February 6th, it returns to the normal dates, and the dates from then on are accurate. Okay, so this is a very interesting glitch that we found here.
Very, very interesting glitch. Now, lest anybody think that Fauci did not know or was not included on the announcement about COVID being a national security threat, the email that went out on February 4th.
Do you want to share it?
Sasha, I'm going to try to share.
Let me stop.
Okay. So I am sharing am I sharing my screen? It's hard.
Yes.
Okay. And what I want to show is here. Can you see this is a FOIA dump. Can you see it, Sasha? Because I can't see what I'm sharing. Okay. So the FOIA dump from March 9th of 2022. So it was a giant FOIA dump of lots of emails from the CDC and elsewhere about COVID, starting in 2019. And you can see here on February 4th, 2020. Do you see that? I'm even going to highlight it. So Tuesday, February 4th, 2020, an email went out. Look. Okay, so an entire page
of recipients,
USAID recipients, National Security Council recipients, also all of the public health agencies, ASPR, Assistant Secretary of Preparedness Response, Robert Kadlec. So he's somebody who people might want to bring in for questioning. And it says novel coronavirus PCC. PCC stands for policy. I have it written down. Policy. It's a policy coordination committee.
Mhm.
And during COVID, the National Security Council had a domestic resilience group, policy coordination committee, which was in charge of the policy for COVID. Okay, so that's who this, so this is all being addressed, and it says, dear colleagues, they will convene a novel coronavirus policy coordinating committee on February 5th. And there's going to be space constraints, and please register for attendance, and that's it. And if there was another email going out on the day before that. So look at how long this one is. This one, on the day after. So on Wednesday the 5th, we get this thing, defense, National Security Council, WHO, again, all of those. Oh, and Fauci, of course, is on all of these emails. Let me show you where.
But somehow none of this is mentioned in his diary.
Exactly. Now this being, and the meeting.
And the meeting is not on the diary either.
Of the policy coordination committee that all of these people are being invited to is not, oh, there it is. So there's Fauci right there. See him on the big one. And there's Fauci on this one. We don't need to find it, but he's on that one too. So Fauci is on both of these. The biggest look at this. This is a 3 pages of email addresses for this meeting. And it says, please find attached 2 documents that will be useful to have. We don't know what those documents are. If I were conducting this particular questioning of Fauci, that would be the first thing that I would ask for. What are those 2 documents from February 4th and February 5th that you were using for your policy coordination committee? There, that's a good question. And that's a good thing to FOIA. Yeah. But this is just to show, and if you want, you can, the reason that I'm showing this here, it's as part of this document dump, is you can look at all the other emails, many of which of course are redacted. You'll never find anyone, I've gone through the whole thing, that has 2 or 3 whole pages of recipients. That does not exist at all, anywhere in this, how many, this is like hundreds of pages of emails. That is the only one in any of the email dumps that I've seen that has that many recipients, and that where the recipients are the National Security Council and the military and stuff like that. So we're putting together 3 things about February 4th that people need to remember. 1, that's when the PrEP Act and the emergency use authorization are dated to. 2, why are they dated to that date? Because that's when the pharmaceutical companies were told that this is a national security threat and they have to start doing COVID stuff. 3, we know that the announcement, well, we suspect, I can't say we know because we don't know the content of the documents, but it looks like the same announcement went out internally to everyone who was involved in the COVID Policy Coordination Committee. And we know that the COVID Policy Coordination Committee was under the auspices of the National Security Council. Right. And Fauci received those emails, and they are nowhere in his diary.
Yeah, and the meeting on that they were scheduling on February 5th is also not mentioned on his in his diary on February 5th, which is marked as February 5th, 2000.
Exactly. So do I need to end sharing?
Yeah, if you end sharing, yeah, okay. So the next thing I wanted to mention, so since we're on the National Security Council, is